I am excited for this December Fight Night card, and I don't think this card is getting enough attention, so I thought I'd give it, because we don't really have any MMA this week, or this weekend, really, but I thought we'd talk about because this is what's coming up, and I've really only been thinking about this fight, and there's so many good fights, and I'm not going to be talking about all of them, I'm going to be talking about the four that I'm the most excited for, and it's just, this card is stacked, like, it's crazy, like, front to bottom, you will enjoy this card. The first fight we're going to talk about is we have the return of Sean Brady. Now, Sean Brady had kind of not the best fight in his last one, where he actually lost his undefeated record in a finish loss to, oh my god, what is it? Belal Muhammad. I don't know how else. I can't remember the name. But he got finished by Belal Muhammad, which is not good. I don't think, if you're getting finished by Belal Muhammad, that's not a good look. But, you know, there could have been a lot to that. Maybe he just wasn't ready for that jump up. Because, I mean, wasn't he only coming off a win against Michael Chiesa? But I think we were all picking, most of us were picking Sean Brady to win. So we can't act like everyone kind of knew that was going to happen. I think we thought he was ready for that. Or that Belal Muhammad wasn't that good. And it turns out Belal Muhammad was pretty good. He's really good, actually. But we got the return of that, and he's going to be welcoming Kelvin Gastellum back to the welterweight division. And Kelvin, he's kind of had some rough form in his last performances. He is coming off, I believe, a decision win against Chris Curtis, which is a good win to have. Chris Curtis is in the top 15. He gets wins in that, but he just doesn't seem to be able to make that jump into, you know, our against these other ranked guys. But he's been fighting good competition that, we'll say this at least. Kelvin Gastelum has not been losing to bad fighters. I'd say his worst loss he has of, terms of who he lost to would have been Darren Till, just because how Darren Till's doing. That's his only win in that division. But he's a gritty guy. He gets wins, and he makes these fights hard. He just doesn't get finished often of that. And my only worry I have for this fight, because this fight is kind of hard to pick, is how will Kelvin Gastelum do cutting back down to welterweight? Because he kind of struggled a bit at welterweight and then moved up to middleweight and did really good, and then he's had some rough form. He's undersized. I forget how tall he is, or I guess how short he is. But this fight could go bad because I don't remember Kelvin Gastelum being submitted in that. He's got good takedown defense. He's got good wrestling. He's got all that stuff. Sean Brady is very good at, he's not good at striking. He's good at grappling, getting you down. He can get submissions, but he's more of just kind of hold you, dominate positions there. So it really depends on that. This fight, I'm decently excited for, because we haven't seen Sean Brady since the last Abu Dhabi card back in 2022. So this will be exciting. I am excited for this fight. I think there needs to be more attention for this fight. It could either be a very boring fight or it could be a very exciting fight. It just really depends. I'm worried about Sean Brady in the striking and cardio department, because he was tired when he got finished by Belal Muhammad. And that's not something that should be happening. You shouldn't be getting finished by Belal Muhammad in general. Gilbert Burns was down an arm and went 5 rounds and survived against Belal Muhammad. Not really even survived, he just kind of was there. He didn't really have any struggle of getting finished. But in I believe the second round, Sean Brady gets that finish. So I'm leaning towards Kelvin Gastelum, because he at least has some momentum. He's won, and I don't know how there's so many unanswered things for Sean Brady that I kind of am leaning towards Kelvin Gastelum. But I'm going to watch some fight footage of him and then give you guys my real pick of that. But on to the next fight. Deiveson Figureido versus Rob Font. This fight, originally, when this was kind of being talked about a bit, it was being talked about for a while, but it just hadn't been made yet. But now it's made. Deiveson Figueiredo versus Rob Font. I'm still excited for this fight, but I don't see it being as competitive. Now, both of these guys are pretty old. I'm pretty sure both of them are mid to late 30s. But the problem is, Deiveson Figueiredo has been killing his body making flyweight. He's taken damage. He's been in multiple back-and-forth wars with Brandon Moreno, 4 fights. That's been crazy with that. He's definitely slowed down, and he's just older now. And he's moving up a weight class, which is good for him, which means he'll hopefully have better cardio with that. But Rob Font is still super good. I know he's coming off a loss. He was on a 2-fight losing streak, beats Adrian Yanez, which isn't a bad win to have. But then he loses on short notice to Corey Sandhagen, which, it was short notice. but still, he hasn't had the best run of form recently. But the thing that I don't think is being talked about is this man is probably one of the best boxers, just pure boxers in that division. He's got good hands. The only downside is that this guy's chin isn't that good. But I'm not sure how Deiveson Figureido's power will translate. But I think just age, damage, and moving up a weight class goes towards in favor of Rob Font. And just that boxing, I think he's going to struggle trying to get Rob Font to the ground. And then from there, it's just like, what are you going to do then? Because if you can't finish him, what are you going to do? So I'm going to go towards Rob Font winning this fight. And on to the next one. Bobby Green versus Dan Hooker. I'm excited for this fight. This fight is going to be exciting. This is one of the 2 5-round fights. And I love when the UFC does this because this is just always fun. Because 5 rounds, you got more excitement, especially for fights like this. If it was like a Carlos Esparza fight, I'm not going to be excited for that. That makes me actually dread it more. But in this case, Dan Hooker versus Bobby Green, exciting. Both of them are on, I believe, 2-fight win streaks, have looked good in their previous fights. This is just exciting. Now, when I think of this fight, I just know it's going to be back and forth. And always back in my mind is with Dan Hooker fights is how much damage is too much damage. Because this guy is just known for taking damage, and it's in the fights where it's somehow he just survives right now. Because he's been just that Edson Barboza fight I always think of is just brutal. The Dustin Poirier fight, that one was crazy. Getting KO'd by Michael Chandler, getting KO'd by Arnold Allen, submitted by Islam Makhachev. I'm like, is it too much right now? And then he goes out, gets like flush head kicked by Jolene Turner, a 6'3" weight bully, and just eats it like it's nothing. Like, it just makes no sense sometimes. And he's been looking good. He's got momentum, as I said, 2-fight win streak. But Bobby Green also has some momentum. He's coming off his, I don't know which is more impressive. I'm going to go with Bobby Green's KO of Grant Dawson because he got a first-round KO over Grant Dawson, who was on a crazy win streak. I don't think he had lost in the UFC yet, or he might have had – I know he only had 1 loss at the time, but he might have lost in the UFC. But he was on a crazy win streak. He just beat oh my God, was it Damir Smagulov? I believe that's his name. But just good win overall. He does that, and then we're like, yeah, he's going to beat Bobby Green. And then Bobby Green KOs him in the first round. And I'm like, that's just fucking crazy. But then you got Dan Hooker, who has beaten John Turner, beat Ricardo Paulos, has been in the top 15 for quite some time now. They're both veterans. It's crazy. I'm leaning towards Dan Hooker in this fight, just because I think he's got more experience in these top 15 fights as of recently over like Bobby Green. And let's not act like Bobby Green hasn't taken damage. This guy got KO'd by Islam Makhachev. And I know it was on short notice, but it still counts. It's still damage taken. You can't, like, minimize damage of, like, well, it was on short notice, so. But he's like, well, he still took the damage. But they've both taken a lot of damage. So this fight, I don't know. These guys are super gritty in that. And it's not like Bobby Green, other than that recent fight, he hasn't really been getting, like, crazy finishes or anything. I mean, he got a third-round submission over Tony Ferguson. I mean, it was a pretty uneventful fight kind of before that. It was just kind of like sad to watch. But I'm going to go with Dan Hooker to win this fight. I'm thinking he either gets a late finish or he just gets a unanimous decision. That's kind of my early prediction for that. And then we got our final fight, the main event. Our main event, Beniel Dariush takes on the up-and-coming Arman Tsaryukan. Now, this fight is intriguing to me because Beniel is sadly coming off a loss. He got KO'd in the first round against Charles Oliveira. It was on a crazy win streak. I'm sad that Beniel... I'm happy Charles won because that's who I thought was going to win, and I wanted to win. But I at least wanted Beniel to get a title shot because, I mean, he was on a good win streak in that. But I'm against kind of some of what people are saying where they're like, we were underestimating a bunch of these fighters and they do crazy with that. And Beniel Dariush, I'm like, okay, Beniel Dariush is good, but like finish-wise, he isn't a crazy finisher except against some of these unranked fighters. He's a very strong dude in that, but let's also not act like this guy's been KO'd by Alexander Hernandez, and Alexander Hernandez is not good. It's not good. So he got KO'd by him, I believe it was in his debut for Hernandez, so that's not good. He gets KO'd by Charles Oliveira. And yeah, he's had plenty of time to recover, which is good. He's not like returning super late or anything, not early or anything. Arman Tsaryukan, his last fight worried me because he got I think he got stunned. I don't know if he got dropped against Joaquin Silva, I believe that's pronounced his name, who is also on this card. Then he comes back, and then he finishes Joaquin Silva. So, yeah, he had a moment. But I think him getting stunned or wobbled by Joaquin Silva is a good thing. Because that kind of got in his mind, like, I can lose, I can do that. But he's looked good recently. I thought he beat Mateusz Gamrot, and that was a really good fight. It just showed how good these guys are. And he had, on a week's notice, did amazing against Islam Makhachev. Made that fight competitive, and now Islam is the champion. And I think Beniel is good, and I think he can win this fight, 100%. I just don't think he's going to, like, expose Arman. I think Arman is really good. And I think Islam would still beat Arman, but I think Arman can beat Beniel Dariush. And it's sad to say, because I still want Beniel to get a title fight. But I think this dude doesn't have the best chin right now. And Arman can get finishes. I know he's got some decisions, and he mostly gets decisions. But he can get finishes. I think he can finish Beniel Dariush. I think, and he's gone 5 rounds. Let's not act like Arman Tsaryukan hasn't gone 5 rounds. He's beaten Damir Ismagulov. He arguably beat Mateusz Gamrot. I think he won at least 3 rounds to 2. I'd have to rewatch the fight, but I know he won that fight, or should have won that fight. I think he gets a 4th round TKO or sub against Beniel Dariush, if I'm going to be honest. But yeah, those are my, this is just breaking down some of these 4 of the fights, but it's just, look at the card. It's great. You got Khalil Rountree fights on this card. I forgot. It's like Azamat Murzakanov. I think Azamat or whatever his name might win of that just because Khalil, I don't know how he does against grapplers in that, but you got that fight. You got Clay Guida versus Joaquin Silva, I believe, which is a good fight. Always happy to see Clay Guida in fights. But yeah, there's just a bunch of these exciting fights. I'm really excited for this next week. Sadly, we got to wait a little bit longer, but, we got to hold out for that. Those are my picks. Hope you guys enjoyed the video, and I'll see you in the next one. Bye.